sweet is that? Thanks for joining us today on the Morning Scramble. You know, talking about the holidays, it can be an extremely exciting time and it can be an extremely stressful time. I think we put so much expectation on it's supposed to be a great time, family is together. Well, when you have step families involved sometimes, it can be extra intense. Joining me today to talk about that, Barb Goldberg, you are a blogger and author of the Evil Stepmother Speaks.com. You know, I was thinking about this this morning. You know, we think of holidays and we think of family being together and we have expectations and we think, okay, we're all together and we think it's supposed to be a fabulous time, but it can be really stressful as well.
Oh, big time. Not only do we want to have a good time, a lot of times we want it to be perfect.
Perfect,
Just,
yeah.
It has to be perfect.
Right.
And especially if you're in a divorce situation, now, whether we like to admit it or not, we want it to be more perfect sometimes than some of what's going on in the other household.
Right.
It's just a natural feeling that you have. It's hard to combat that kind of thing.
And I can imagine too, because you know when kids are going back and forth, and maybe if it's the time of year that you have the kids on that specific holiday, the expectation would be, okay, it has to be extra special this time of year.
Exactly, and I think that a lot of times you don't want it to be, but it sort of becomes a power play.
Right.
And so what I like to write about in my blog, and what I always try to tell my clients is that, you know, you can't compete. There is no such thing by definition. You love your children so desperately, love doesn't even allow you to compete. So there is no competition, and as hard as you can try not to do that. The kids feel it, and it's just not the holiday you want to give to them.
But I would imagine the kids even come into play in that aspect as well, because if mom's, dangling that carrot over at her house saying, oh, I'm going to buy you that bike that you've always wanted, it would be hard to be the stepmother over here saying, maybe mom is buying you that bike and you're saying you want the PlayStation 3, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to engage in that. I'm not going to get you that. What can you do as the stepmother to say, I'm not going to partake in that?
Well, actually, there's a trick to it. And the trick is that this is for all of us really, but for stepmothers in particular. A lot of times we forget why we're here to begin with. And we don't really give it much thought. We know we're remarried, we have this family, we want this perfect everything. But if you step back and I'm just going to suggest, instead of thinking I'm a mommy, I'm this, I'm that, suppose you were the memory provider. Let's just suppose that your job was just to provide great memories for people. Now if you get into that mindset, it doesn't really involve great iPads. When you think about what you remember in your life, it's really not some fabulous thing that you got. It's the footy pajamas that we wore for that event.
Yeah.
It's the great meal. It's something funny. It's the charades game, those kinds of things. So if you can stay in that mindset and just think, what would make like just a great memory, and think about what made it for you, it takes you out of that whole syndrome of, iPads for Christmas.
How long have you been a stepmother?
Almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long would you say it takes for kids to feel like they're really a part of a family? Is there a time frame?
Actually, there's a statistic out there. I'll just quote the statistic that's out there. They say it takes 7 years. And I've looked back, and it's hard for me to answer that because how I felt would be way different. You really need to ask of the children because they're the ones that really have the hardest time. They're the ones that are put in the middle. So. For me, I have to admit that when I kind of look at it, that statistic's probably not that far off.
Where do you think this myth comes from? I mean, we all know that whole Cinderella thing, the evil stepmother, and that's your blog. Where do you think that myth comes from?
Well, it's a famous archetype. There's a lot of theories out there. If you look at Joseph Campbell's theories that we're living the myths and the archetypes, it's a well-known archetype. But I also think that to some degree it's easier. It's easier to just fall into that. And, it always reminds me, my life as a step-parent kind of reminds me of a Jerry Springer show in a way. You know how it is? Like, it's so annoying. Like, it's two women and we were once married to the same person. You never hear about the husband, but all of a sudden there's supposedly all this conflict between the two women. And a lot of times it's not the case. It's just that society wants to hear it. It's fun to talk about.
Right.
It's fun to gossip about.
Can the women ever truly be friends?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There are women that are like hang out and there's no different than anybody else. You never hear about the husband not being friends with maybe his ex-wife's new husband.
Right.
Never hear about that. It's the same myth that women can't get along.
Right, it is. It truly is.
Yeah,
you hear
it's
that,
annoying.
It's annoying.
It's really annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what are some tips out there for, you know, maybe newly divorced couples that maybe there's a new girlfriend or a new spouse right now that, you know, this is the first situation.
Right.
Maybe they're meeting the children for the first time and spending the holiday with, you know, the children.
Right. I would back off.
Back off.
Back off. If it's a new girlfriend and you're meeting over the holidays, I wouldn't be doing that. No way. That's a huge mistake. And you're not joining the family
But
either.
there will be. I mean, there will be situations where this is happening.
Okay, bad idea.
Bad.
Bad. Bad idea. Okay?
Don't do
bad
it.
idea. I mean, some of the things people do, it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
No. Can you imagine? Think about it for just 1 second. If you're a child, be it 5 years old or 45 years old, and it's the holidays and you're going to dad or mom's house, and here's the new date, who wants to do that?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
That's
not a
no.
good idea.
No. I'm giving that the big no.
Okay.
Introduce them another time.
Yeah,
Not
right.
the holidays.
Right, exactly. Thanks for these great tips. Thanks for joining us
absolutely.
today.
Thanks for having me. I
Yeah,
appreciate
tell us
it.
again your website.
It's theevilstepmotherspeaks.com. And please go on there, enjoy my blog, and write to me.
Okay.
Happy to answer.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. Working out is actually a very good idea to do today. So join us right now for Workout Wednesday.